Hello everybody and welcome to another toy review. In today's video I am reviewing one of my holy grails, a figure that I've been after for quite some time. This is the Medicom EVA-02y, part of their Real Action Heroes line. Now this is of course the EVA 2.0, but from the Evangelion 3.0 you cannot redo. This is where they kind of modify and revamp the EVA. Back of the box we see detailed pictures of the Mark II with that exclusive Gatling gun and stand 390mm tall. And another nice feature of the box is that it has an opening window. Let's take a look at everything that's included in this set. We get two of these new progressive knives, and they can be used as a single blade, and we have a hilt tab which can just be placed in, or we can actually use them as a conjoined knife, which allows this to be wielded as one long kind of bow staff like weapon. Really like that, but at the same time I personally think that the two knives do work somewhat better. We get the gun, just does exactly what it's meant to. It's just a big heavy duty prosthetic cannon which plugs on to the arm. We get the long umbilical cord to give the EVA power. This is a nice rubbery texture. People are worried about degradation of the rubber over time. I don't know, I haven't had this 5 minutes, so I'm not sure, but the actual design and applications of paint on the handle are nigh on animation perfect. Really like having these, although I don't have any EVA lifts or anything to plug this into, so I'm going to have it draped from her back, and so it's still plugged in but it's pulled away from the power unit. We get a variation of different hands. These are the prosthetic hands on the robotic arm. Nice use of the red and the blacks there, some nice detailing. This is a nice ball socketed joint with rotation and a hinge. The fingers unfortunately are not articulated. They do have ball sockets sculpted in there, and there is kind of a rubbery feel to those, but I think if you apply enough pressure those will break. And again we get kind of the thumbs up hand designed to hold the weapon, and again we get that sculpted bend on here, and that's to allow the sword to just slide down through there, and then the stopper goes on the end, securing that blade into place. We get a kind of stopping hand, generating kind of force field or protecting the EVA from a blow. We get a fist. Lovely detailing on that fist, really kind of gives that animation vibe to it. Again we get the thumbs up sword, very much the same as what we got with this prosthetic version, albeit the detail is kind of highlighted slightly more on the prosthetic limb. And we also get a chopping hand, because what EVA would be complete without a good chopping hand. We get a large clear translucent display stand, and we get a rather large hook to secure our EVA in place, with articulation on the base, the middle, and again at the top in two places. And the stand can be locked by just placing into the base. And here we have the EVA unit itself, piloted by Asuka. It looks absolutely incredible. I'm so happy that I finally got one of these. Now it is somewhat brittle. Medicom don't exactly have a reputation for making super high quality figures. Don't get me wrong, this feels very impressive and it looks nigh on accurate to its animation counterpart, but there is a big but. A majority of that EVA is made up of a rubber skin. Now, as previously mentioned with the umbilical cord, rubber can degrade, and there is fear that some of the rubber may rub against the joints. It's prone to splitting, so you run a risk every time you put this EVA into a different pose. Mine will be displayed in my display cabinet once I've done this review, but doing the video itself, we're running a fairly high risk of the unit splitting. One thing I am particularly happy with is the face sculpt. It is exceptional. We've still got those eyes, almost all of them present, albeit these two are now robotic, and you can still see those 4 nostrils. Now, the V-shaped crest horn-like things, I believe they brought those in the second movie. I don't think they were present during the second season, but I could be wrong. Now, the armor that he's wearing is the same armor which is adopted by Units 3 and 4, and basically Unit 2 is meant to be an improved unit, kind of rectifying all the mistakes made during construction of the prototype EVA-00 and test type EVA-01. Basically, this was the first EVA which was built specifically for combat against the Angels, and then it got smashed, and then it got rebuilt, and then it got rebuilt again into this kind of cyborg mech style beast. It looks absolutely incredible. Now, we have a lot of wobble going on with this display stand. I don't think it's designed for a figure of this size. I think it's putting too much stress on those joints, but I must say that does look exceptional. We can switch out the hands by pulling them out of their sockets. It does peg in, but it doesn't really want to stay in there. It's almost like the joint itself is a little bit too loose. I may have to put a little bit of nail varnish or super glue just around this tab, just to thicken it up slightly, so when I push it in, it holds in place. But even with those loose wrist joints, it still manages to pull off a pose remarkably well. Now, the articulation is as follows. The head can move left and right. We can look up and down. Naturally, it doesn't really like to look up. It kind of springs backwards. You got a lot of rubber around this neck section, so you are getting some resistance there. We can tilt side to side. I just love that sculpt. It's terrifying. I'm going to take this sword and hand off because it's going to fall off anyway. This is the easiest joint to show. We've got rotation on that shoulder. We've got a upper bicep rotation there as well. We've got a nice high joint there, as well as a nice bend on the elbow, so effectively giving us a double joint there. We have a nice abdominal crunch on that waist joint. Again, though, we're going against this rubber here. I love how the spine, how it kind of all folds in there. We get some left and some right motion there. I can see how this could split. It's very, very fragile indeed. The legs can ratchet forwards and ratchet backwards. We can come out to the side for a nice high kick. There is upper thigh rotation there. The armor does move quite nicely on those legs to avoid any hindrance. We get a double jointed bend at that knee, although this time the armor is a fixed unit and doesn't go with that joint. And coming down to the feet, we go up and down. We can also rock those forwards and backwards, and we do get some left and some right rotation as well. Now the range is pretty much mirrored on the second arm, albeit this one we do have a really nice butterfly joint inwards and outwards, and the joint itself isn't quite as tight as this arm, but we do get a nice range in there. The butterfly joint definitely comes in handy, and the actual armor itself again is independence. We can move that to react to however we want to pose our Eva. Now taking a look at this progressive knife, we can have the extra large handle on there, but I think it's designed to just unpeg like so. We can remove this handle and then we can just bring that in, and we've kind of shortened the length of it, and I think that works better, that sort of size. Now as you may or may not have noticed, this joint here was a little bit looser than the others. That's because this is the one that detaches. We can detach that arm and we can bring in the gun. That just attaches on there and just squares off. And here it is on display. My very first Medicom EVA unit, and I absolutely adore it. For a figure this big, the posability and articulation is mind-blowing, and it holds that pose so well, and it looks incredibly fluid doing it. I love how they put that plastic shell over the top of the rubber, which really does hide all of the creases and joints and does make everything look just that little bit more natural. I also like the ability that he can actually strike a very good kneeling kind of off balance pose without the need for a stand as well. It's a very exciting figure and something I'm going to have a lot of fun with posing, but I will tread lightly, and I'm still gripped with fear in case I tear this guy to smithereens. Just to give you an idea of how the Eva stacks up, that's MP10 Optimus Prime for all you Transformer lovers out there. It's a massive, great Eva. And here we have a Takara Diaclone pilot. That's the nearest I'm going to get to scale. I think they're about 1/25. Now officially these guys are 1/6 product. Obviously that isn't a 1/6 scale. These are like the size of 3, maybe 4 story buildings, if not bigger. So I think, you know, that's not a bad scale. So there we have it, my very first Medicom Eva. Very impressed. Yes, there is a severe case of I could fall apart at any minute, but it is stunning. I don't know if and when I'll be able to manage to get any of the other EVA units. They seem to be rocketing in price. I mean, when these were released, they were only about $150, which is definitely worth the money. But now some of them, especially the EVA test type 01, that's going for crazy money, money that I just can't justify or afford. If anybody has any of these going cheap or anything they would like to swap and change up for some of my Transformers, then please let me know. These have been a holy grail of mine, and I thought they were completely untouchable until I found this guy on eBay from a very kind seller indeed. I've included the link to the seller in the description below because he gave me a really good deal that I just couldn't turn down. Thanks again to my wife for letting me buy this for my birthday, which was on the 11th of February. And thank you all for tuning in to this video. I know it's something a little bit different, but I just had to share this product. It is exceptional, and shooting it in 4K, I mean, what better way is there to look at an EVA? Until next time, from myself and the Type 2Y, thanks for watching. Goodbye.